Today we're paving my 6,000 square foot driveway. Alright guys, so yes, it is finally time to pave my driveway. This has been a long time coming. I've been here for almost 6 years now, so I'm really looking forward to getting this done. So in total, the driveway is 425 feet roughly from this point to the garage. It is about 6,000 square feet. It is what I would call fairly large compared to a regular residential driveway. If you live in a neighborhood, it would be much smaller than this. And I will be going over all of the costs involved near the end of this video. Now, as you can see, some of my driveway is already paved from here up to the road, which is about 300 feet. And that was done by the previous owner. They were actually developers that were planning to put a bunch of houses in here. That ended up not happening, and I bought the property and just put one house on it. And as opposed to everything else that's on my channel, I'm going to actually pay someone to pave this for me. Yes, I ran the numbers and it really didn't make sense to buy all the paving equipment and do it myself. But I will be covering the entire process and explain everything that they're going to be doing. And like I said, I've lived with this gravel driveway for about 6 years now, and it has served me pretty well. Doesn't require too much maintenance, but there are a few big reasons to get this done. First of all, it's going to be much nicer to drive on. I, of course, have a couple low cars, so you do have to drive pretty slow because it is not that even. This is a bit of a hill here, so it's pretty hard to keep it nice and even. So you have to be pretty careful with low cars. It also can get very dusty if it's pretty dry out and it hasn't rained in a while. So your nice clean car gets a lot of dust on it when you drive on it. This first 200 feet or so does get washed out with a heavy rain. You can kind of tell there are some ruts in here. I've already had to regrade it about 3 or 4 times this year alone. And so that's just really time consuming. And then the last reason is going to be just the appearance. It's gonna look so much nicer having it all paved and have a nice clean edge here to the grass. So now as we walk down the driveway, this is going to be 10 feet wide, which is pretty close to exactly what it is right now. So that will be good that we're gonna be staying within the current driveway because they will be reusing all of this gravel as the base to the asphalt. And we are going to have to keep in mind the drainage because, like I said, this first 200 feet is a slight hill. I don't know if you can tell on video, but it is a hill. So the water can run down this driveway, which is why it washes out. So we're going to have to make sure that then at this point where it starts to go uphill again, we can drain off into this area. So then here it does start to go uphill a bit and it turns over towards the garage. And as we get closer here, you can see the driveway opens up. The width of the building is 50 feet on this end, so I would say the driveway is just about 45 feet by the time it gets to the garage. So right here, you can see it opening up to the left here, and then to the right it goes the whole way to the end of the building. So now over here in this section, I am gonna actually go a little bit wider than is currently shown with the gravel. And the reason is when I come in here to back into the garage, I come over to this section and I'm almost in the grass every time I want to have enough room to back into the garage. I'm planning to pave next to the door, probably about a foot here, and then come out into where is currently grass. And then, so we're a little bit wider here, probably a foot or two wider than current. And then we're gonna go back towards exactly how it is right now. Now the second part of this project is going to be topsoil. So I'm going to be bringing in a bunch of topsoil to cover a couple of areas here. So around my house, I already brought in topsoil years ago in order to plant some grass because all of my soil here is super rocky. There's so much slate. You can kind of see over here. It's basically impossible to plant any real grass in this. Anything that comes up in there is all weeds. So I already have topsoil around the house, but now I'm looking to add some more so that I can have a little bit nicer grass here next to the driveway. So we're going to be adding it in all of this section. Of course, right now it does look pretty nice because everything's green, but if you look closer, it's all weeds. And like I said, impossible to plant real grass in this. And then in the winter, it's all brown and really doesn't look great at all. So we're going to cover this whole section in some fresh topsoil. You can see it falls away down here, so we're going to try to level it out a little bit as well. And what that's going to do is give me a nice edge here along the new driveway. You can see it's just so rocky. You just don't have any type of nice edge on either side here. So that's really kind of the reason to do this, so we can get some real grass growing. So I don't pay for this nice driveway and then it just looks crappy right next to it. Now luckily my paver is totally comfortable with bringing in the topsoil, so he can do all that the same day. And it's great to get that done and down right before we do the paving, because I wouldn't really want to be bringing in all that topsoil on my fresh pavement. So he's going to put all that down before they start the paving process, so that will all get seeded and strawed. And of course I'll be having to water it a lot. It is still August out here, so it's pretty hot to plant grass, but we're getting into the fall here, so hopefully I can get something going. So that is the basic plan. The pavers are scheduled to be here in a few days, so let's get it done. Alright guys, so the driveway is finished. So we're up here at the start of the driveway from where it was previously paved, and we're going into the new driveway. So this is where it was already 16 feet in the already paved portion, and then we were going down to 10 feet. But as you can see, they did a nice job going very gradual into the 10 feet. And then all along this right side here, we put some topsoil. You could see that on the initial video. It's already been about a month since we did the paving, so you can see I've got some nice grass growing here all along the right side of the driveway. And we backfilled that because that would have been higher than the original grass that was there, so you want to backfill against the edge to support the new asphalt. So this entire section is about 10 feet wide, which is roughly what the gravel driveway was. So it feels exactly the same as I'm driving on it. Doesn't feel too skinny, which I'm really happy with. I'm glad I didn't go any skinnier than 10 feet. That would just be too narrow. And again, you can see all of this is new grass. We backfilled this with dirt the whole way up around this curve. So here is where most of the water runs off. It runs down over here because I've already got a good gully that goes down the hill with big rocks in it. So it will run right down the driveway, and it has rained a bunch of times since they did this, and it does seem to do pretty well. It runs down the driveway and comes out right here. I did have a very heavy rain and I had to replace some of the topsoil because the grass wasn't even growing yet, so it washed out. So now as it curves up towards the house, you can see I've got all of this nice new grass. So we put topsoil all in this section and we backfilled right up to the driveway because that was a good bit higher once it was finished than the original ground level. So we backfilled the dirt right up to the driveway so I can drive the mower right up and over. And as you can see here on the left side, I did do a little bit more backfilling up against the driveway and planted some grass just so it doesn't wash out as the rain comes down this hill. Now here heading towards the garage, you can see it really widens up a lot. It's a lot wider actually than it even was, especially over here in this portion. And here are the big rocks we did here to help control any erosion from rain coming down this hill because this is a pretty steep hill. And so what I've started to do is I actually started to plant some ivy here, and I'm hoping it will spread out pretty nicely. So that way I can cover this steep hill. I decided it's gonna be too much of a pain to try to mow this. So I'm gonna try to get some ivy growing there so I don't just have weeds coming up that I have to try to trim anyway. So I do like how this ended up looking with these big rocks here. I think it'll look really nice once I get some greenery with the ivy on that bank. But here you can see this whole section really was not here. This is a lot wider than it was. And then also going back here to the door, and I did go about 18 inches here to the left of this door, which I think is pretty nice. So you will have plenty of room to step out of the door. And in this area now I've got a lot more room to park some extra cars so that they're not in the way in front of the garage door. And yeah, everything here just looks way better in front of the garage in comparison to the gravel. It's a night and day difference. They did a nice job here at the transition to the garage. You probably saw they actually had the roller coming into the garage and then back out to make that transition really nice. It is pitched out a little bit away from the garage so that the water doesn't run into the garage. So when it does rain, the water kind of comes from a few different areas down in here, and then it will collect and then kind of roll out that way, which is exactly what we wanted. And then heading over here to my hose spigot, the new driveway is exactly where the old driveway was, which is roughly lined up with the edge of my building here. And now looking out, you can really get a feel of how much better this looks, having this nice clean edge with the new grass going right up to it. It is just 100 times better than having that jagged edge with the gravel and the weeds and everything else. And I will say, after driving on it for about a month, it is super nice in comparison to driving on the gravel. Just so much smoother, don't have to worry about it washing out, and also I don't have to worry about the dust. So the process was pretty straightforward. A couple guys came out the night before and did some grading, as you saw with the Bobcat. So they were just kind of grading it off, making it nice and smooth. They did pull out a good bit from this section to make sure it was down enough so the water wasn't running into the garage. So he pulled out some rock, and they actually ended up having extra. And so after the first night of grading, then they did all of the paving the next day, roughly 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m. at night, and they were finished. And that was with a couple delays. They did have to wait for the asphalt plant at one point, which delayed about an hour, but that was fine. They still got it all done in one day. So overall, the whole project was about $16,000. Just the paving portion was probably about $14,000. The rest was the topsoil and spreading the topsoil. So I thought that was a pretty good deal in comparison to what I thought it was going to be. I was really thinking it was going to be more like $25,000. So $14,000 for the driveway, which is roughly 425 feet and very large down here near the garage. And overall, I'm very pleased with how it came out. It was weird to pay someone to do something for me since I rarely do that anymore, but they did a great job. So that is the new driveway. I am psyched on it. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know what you want to see next.